The City of Fairhope is a little bit different than other cities because we're built on gullies and ravines, which are drainage basins.
The gully system in Fairhope is critical, and the health of these gullies serve our citizens in ways that many of us don't even understand.
Primarily, people think about the gullies historically as a place to congregate and to enjoy the wildlife, the scenery, and just play. But then you start looking at the real function of the gully, and it is to convey water.
Managing the water that flows through that gully system is complex.
When you have development going on in a watershed, you're putting more water into that watershed in higher volumes. The velocity of the water can degrade and erode away the gully.
One of the tendencies that we're already seeing is that people begin to harden their own edges, they begin to put up retaining walls. It increases the flow of the water. The city then responds by hardening the gully itself and speeding up the water, and it makes even more erosion.
As the city grows, you have to have roads and you have people build in areas that shouldn't have been built in, and it affects everything.
So this is a community that's concerned that they're kind of losing their own kind of historic community because the property around them is being developed in a way that they don't have any ability to afford to stay in their community.
Fairhope's plan to increase community resilience to flooding is heavily reliant on a healthy gully system that moves water safely to the Mobile Bay. Protecting this essential natural infrastructure meant understanding more about the gully system by gathering hard data along with community input and perspectives. Using existing watershed management data resources, the city created a GIS-based map of the community's stormwater facilities and the current condition of flood hazard areas. From here, the city is able to use an advanced modeling tool to determine which structures are at risk of flooding now and in the future. The model is only one part of the resilience equation for Fairhope. Key to protecting and maintaining the city's natural stormwater pathways is the social science data gathered through the creation of the South Fairhope Community Action Plan to better understand how the success of resilience action is shaped by and relies on those who live in the community. For the Tatumville Gully, residents were surveyed and invited to participate in the creation of a plan that addresses their needs and sets a vision of their hopes for the future. This plan is the basis for strengthening channels of communication and trust among city staff, city officials, and residents. This trust is the backbone of a successful resilience plan and is required for any community to adapt to increasing flood risks created by sea level rise. Across the northern Gulf of Mexico, it'll be important to continue building similar relationships as sea level rise continues to reduce the capacity of our stormwater systems. This means that communities can endure less rainfall before they flood due to a backed-up stormwater system. In addition to storm-related flooding being worsened, sea level rise also increases the occurrence of high-tide flooding. High-tide flooding can infiltrate stormwater systems, flood streets, and overcome storm defenses or steep topography. Over the next decade in Alabama, nearly 2,000 homes will be exposed to high-tide flooding caused by sea level rise. This number is only going to rise as we continue towards the future. Cities and counties will need a combination of hard and social science data to build both physical and lifestyle defenses to the hazards of flooding. Using models, data, and stormwater plans, officials along the Alabama Gulf Coast will need to communicate information and share resources with those who live and work in affected areas. This community buy-in is essential for getting everyone on the same page, working together to build the resilience required for living on the Alabama coast amidst changing environmental conditions.
Our part was to enlist a lot of community stakeholders to do a very detailed survey of all the property owners in the community to really understand what their concerns were and also what their hopes were for their community.
Community engagement is one of the most important things we're doing. These are human lives that will be affected by all the decisions that we make.
We found a very interested and engaged community, very concerned about what was going on, and we found a lot of very committed community residents.
We have kind of put the gullies on the back burner as far as maintaining them and making sure that they last long into the future for what they're there for. So, this project is going to teach us, hopefully, how we can make these watersheds more resilient.
These data will really help everyone realize that the gully is at a critical point where some things have to change so that it it doesn't get worse and begins to get better.
Data is going to give us a baseline. It's going to tell us in a picture in time how the watershed is developed today, how is it behaving, and where are the weak spots.
Our work with the community is to help them figure out and help the city begin to figure out a process to get some more community involvement in development, in the decisions that are going on around land use and around the infrastructure.
Everything we do can be looked at through this lens. How is the community involved? What are we doing environmentally? What are we doing internally to make sure we're cross-working? That's resilience.